Genesis 3. Now the serpent was more cunning. Notice how they changed the word subtil to cunning instead of subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Notice this, Lord God and God. Okay. And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent said to the woman, you will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Now notice that was changed from the King James, right? So it says, God doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods. See that change? Knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree desirable to make one wise. You see, the third eye saw eyes, third eye is wise. She took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. There was no seduction, people. Then the eyes of both of them were open. This is what the serpent said. He says, in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open. And guess what happened? In the day they eat, the eyes of both of them were open. So why are they calling them cunning? Cunning means having or showing skill in achieving one's ends by deceit or evasion. See, this is cunning because the serpent wasn't trying to keep them from anything. The serpent wasn't trying to achieve an end. The end that was trying to be achieved was by the Lord God. Right? So, listen. The eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew is now to know in past tense, that they were naked. Naked means to be nude, right? Without clothes, without usual covering or protection. See, without the usual covering or protection, without leaves, a tree without leaves. All right. Nudus. All right, from the root nude, bare. They were bare. All right. Stripped. Okay. Unclothed, undressed. All right. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. That's very important. This is the most important part, probably one of the most important part of the story. Fig leaves together and made themselves covering. They became to become like gods. You see? Because God created and made, right? See? God had created and made. So they, with the knowledge, right? They became like God. They became creative, right? And self-sufficient. All right? Right? And they covered, now they're covered. They covered themselves. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. Specifically in the cool of the day when it's not hot. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord among the trees of the garden. See, that's a big garden, isn't it? With resident labor, that's more accurately defined as a plantation, not a garden. A garden is a small plot of land. See? Hold on, man. Let's see if I can get this working for me. Garden. See, I don't know why it does that. This is so annoying. Alright, let's do it. Alright, there you go. A small piece of land, right? A small piece of ground used to grow vegetables, fruits, herbs, or flowers, right? So if you look at the thesaurus, you see a yard, a plot, a bed, a patch, a lawn, a flower bed, a flower garden, a vegetable garden. You don't see anything having to do with a plantation, because these are all small pieces of ground used to grow vegetables. So what is cunning about this is that this realm having resident labor, okay? All right, so resident labor, okay? So we're going to do plantation here, right? Plantation. Plantation, right? And then let's look up that definition. The definition of a plantation is an estate on which crops such as coffee, sugar, and tobacco are cultivated by resident labor. All right. So an area in which trees have been planted, especially for commercial purposes. Okay. Historical, a colony. All right. So Adam, we know, lived in this garden. He is resident labor. He was put in the garden to tend to keep it. And they're hiding themselves amongst the presence of the trees in the garden. So this is not a garden. This is a plantation. But the word garden is used for a specific reason, okay? To soften the story. But listen, it says, then the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, where are you? Which means that this Lord God is not omnipresent. All right? He's not omnipresent, is what I'm saying. And he's actually a physical walking man who's speaking. So he said, I heard your voice in the garden. I heard your voice in the garden. Not in my head, right? Not within me. See, he heard the voice from the garden. So this is telling you that this is not God. There's a difference between Lord God and God. But what the serpent was talking about, right? When he says, for God knows, right? For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like, well, this was changed, right? From gods to God, but you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Now this, you're going to, this capitalized use of this word is to imply that this Lord God has the knowledge. So he is already like God. So he's considered himself God to Adam, who does not have the knowledge. Okay. All right. So again, they heard the voice in the garden. All right. And I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. So there's three more attributes of the human being, the human nature of this Lord in the garden. Okay. And that Adam felt afraid because of his nakedness, and he was able to hide himself. Okay. Again, that confirms we're not talking about an omnipresent being, because you're not afraid or ashamed of being naked in front of God. You'll pray to God in the shower, right? You'll know that God is not physical, so it's not concerned about the physical. But so the fact that he was now concerned about his physical means that not only did he come into the knowledge, but the knowledge was awareness of his nudity, his ignorance, his vulnerability. All right. And this was an obvious thing, right? So this is the reason why the Lord said, and he said, who told you that you were naked? So that's an omission right there. That the knowledge wasn't literally an apple or a fig, or it wasn't a piece of fruit, literally. The fruit of knowledge was food for thought, right? It was concerning the procreation process, all right, which has been oppressed, right, by the educational or the institutions of indoctrination. All right. So it says, have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat? Again, you should not eat. Should is not should is a guidance. All right. You will not, right, is more definitive. Okay. All right. So the point with that is that he was commanded not to eat, to keep him from being in the knowing. What's wrong with a person recognize that they're, that they were not clothed, unprotected, working in ignorance? You have to, if you don't see anything wrong with that, then of course you're under the spelling, right? The doctrine, the narrative. Who told you that you shouldn't, shouldn't want the fruits of knowledge, right? Who made you feel that way? Who programmed you to think that that was something that Adam should not have done? And it's from here. They titled it. They create the narrative that this was the fall of man. But this is what man was actually coming into his awareness. All right, so what happened, right? So now the man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I ate. So we know that this tree isn't literally a tree. It's something that we're supposed to figure out. So this is the reason why they use the fig leaves. We need to figure out the pieces and put it together. So they sewed fig leaves together. We're supposed to be figuring this out by piecing together the pages, the words, and piece it together, like sew it together. And then they made themselves covering, because they made themselves a book of knowledge, right? A book of life. And I'll get to that, right? I'll get to that. Because again, this knowledge has to do with procreation, has to do with their lineage, which is everlasting life, life that continues to succeed perpetually, generation after generation. All right, and generational wealth is when that life succeeds in abundance. Okay, and the way you do that is through knowledge, right? All right, so let's go move on. All right.